Well, good morning. I'm going to start today's talk with a quote from Durkheim's book, The Way of Transformation. I've quoted from before, and I think I even shared this quote before, but it's certainly very appropriate to today's conversation. So, the ones who, really being on the way, fall upon hard times in the world will not, as a consequence, turn to friends who offer refuge and comfort and encourage the old self to survive. Rather, they will seek out someone who will faithfully and inexorably help them to risk themselves so that they may endure the suffering and pass courageously through it, thus making of it a raft that leads to the far shore. Only to the extent that we expose ourselves over and over again to annihilation can that which is indestructible arise within us. In this lies the dignity of daring. Leave it at that, the dignity of daring. The world might call it the stupidity of daring, but yeah, I think Durkheim would get this. Why was it that I saw this pilgrimage to India to be an appropriate celebration of my 40th birthday? And I don't have any particular interest in India. I'm not interested in Hinduism. But it just seemed the thing to do. And I imagine it could have been Trisha's idea, this woman that I'd become friends with in Minneapolis. And somehow she was very attracted to India. She even had a friend who had been to India, and he kind of mentored us a little bit on the do's and don'ts of travel to India. And probably the first thing that he would have mentored us against going when we went was to stay away from India during the monsoon. But I didn't hear that. I didn't listen. It was like, well, my birthday is September 5th, and I want to be in Kathmandu on September 5th, so it means we have to do this pilgrimage, which would, maybe be a 3-week experience during August, during monsoon. So the plan was we would fly into New Delhi, and we did. And I remember it was a long trip. We went through London, traveled through the night from Chicago to London. So with the time changes, missed a whole night's sleep. So I remember just right off everything being topsy-turvy because I was just so tired. But we get to New Delhi and take a bus from the airport into the town. I don't know exactly if we'd asked somebody what area might be a good area to stay in. Obviously, there's hotels everywhere, but we also had decided we wanted to stay in a Hindu hotel, basically a type of place that a Hindu pilgrim, if they had a little bit of money, obviously a lot of the pilgrims have no money, but there's some business people that are also devoutly Hindu, and they would want to do this pilgrimage, which begins in New Delhi and follows the Ganges River up to the source, past Rishikesh, up in Gangotri. So we just kind of made a thing in my own mind that we would never spend more than $1 US per night for a hotel room. And then we would eat simple food from vendors in the street and all of that, which again, our mentor, I'm sure, would have gone, oh my God, you guys are crazy. Like, you're not going to survive. Oh my goodness. But somehow both of us had the stupidity, the arrogance, or whatever to think, oh no, we'll be fine. We can do it. Cooking in the streets, burning dung, dried dung for cooking, and they're peeing and pooping in the streets. And it was right away an amazing assault on my senses, on any idea of my, safety, which, again, I had said before, this was sort of my soul's dilemma in this lifetime, finding a sense of safety, finding a sense of home. And so here I am at 40, probably doing the worst possible thing I could do to feel safe and feel at home. Halfway, I'm on the other side of the world in a very strange place. I mean, again, I don't think there's any place stranger that I could imagine as far as the culture and the language and everything, the religion, the fact that, the sacred cow, it was crazy. It was crazy. So anyway, we were only going to stay in New Delhi like maybe 2 nights and then take a train to Hardwar, which is the holy city. And then from Hardwar begin like walking, go from Hardwar to Rishikesh, then Rishikesh up, following the Hindu trail, the pilgrimage trail up the river to the source of the mountains, Gango tree. That was the idea. So anyway, we did make it through the 3 days and 2 nights, I guess, in Delhi, and got to a train station to take a train, and that was kind of crazy. There, people are all sort of standing around waiting, not really queued up, not really in a line or anything, around the ticket window. And then when the ticket window opens to sell tickets for this particular train, everybody just rushes to the window. It's just like this mob rushing to buy their tickets. And so, when you're not part of the culture, it's like, oh my God, what do we do? Maybe you hope you can find somebody that, can you help us, buy a ticket? Can you fight the mob? Anyway, here we get on the train, obviously, and as we head out of New Delhi, almost within 30 minutes, I'm sure, Trish is violently sick. She's vomiting and diarrhea and all this, and it's pretty amazing there on the trains. The bathrooms are spaces where I guess you have a little bit of privacy. I don't know if there's a door on the room or whatever, but typically there's not much privacy in India. But there's just like a big hole in the floor. And so you vomit, you pee, you poop, whatever, through the hole onto the rushing train tracks below you. So anyway, Trish is totally evacuating her body, very sick, starts to get a fever. And not much I could do. We're on the train. We're just going to make it. I imagine we anticipated eating and drinking things from the street, that we were going to get some dysentery. So she did, and we get up to the city of Hardwar, and she had rested a little bit. She was okay, woozy, but better. And we're in this holy city, and we find out, in fact, there's a big holiday, 3-day festival celebrating Krishna's birthday. So there's many, many hundreds of thousands of pilgrims heading to Hardwar. This is kind of what they do in their culture. The Hindu pilgrims, they just wander from festival to festival, and everybody's in the streets begging and singing and dancing and peeing and pooping and whatever. But as it turns out, because there was this Hindu festival, none of the hotels near the river, which we kind of wanted to stay right alongside the river in Hardwar, is one of the holiest cities where the very devout and wealthy pilgrims come to have their bodies burned on a ghat. They build this thing with the wood and put the body on it and drench the body with this ghee, this clarified butter, and burn them. Well, guess what? Because we were not Hindu pilgrims, there was no rooms available for us. So we found this at every place we asked. No, no, sorry, no, no, no. Not because there weren't any spaces available. It was because we were not Hindu. We were not allowed to have a room right alongside the Ghats along the Ganges River. So we were somewhere far away from the river in the center of the city, a small city, but now a very crowded city, with the festival beginning, I think, the next day. We eventually found a place that would rent us a room, and it was a very simple room. Of course, we were on a special budget of $1. And typically, maybe in New Delhi, it was different. In New Delhi, the city, the hotels, even the cheap hotels, had like doors and screens on the windows and things like that. This hotel had none of that. The room had no door, just an open space, and had no windows, just open spaces. So the room was facing, probably all the rooms are facing the street, the main street. And so you're just there, little balcony, and then the activity in the street, which of course very soon would be constant dancing and singing and chanting and music and lots and lots and lots of noise. So just about the time we got to the hotel, got into our room, the same thing that hit Trish on the train hit me. And though it took longer for me to be consumed by this dysentery, whatever it was, it was brutal. It was, I had never been sick like this in my life. You know, when you have the flu, you feel really, really crappy. And maybe for a day it's agonizing, but this went on for the whole time this festival was going on outside, which was all day, you know, from the wee hours in the morning to the wee hours in the night, probably about a 4 or 5 hour break, so between midnight and dawn. But I was flat on my back. I had total evacuation, of course, vomiting and diarrhea. And then I had this massive fever, and it was strange. I think it's because I had the heat stroke before that I shared in another segment. And I would learn this, that because I had had heat stroke, I would always be very prone to heat stroke or high fever in the future. And sure enough, I had this fever of 107 degrees for 3 days. So I was like burning up. I was just, and it felt so horrible, like a terrible headache the whole time. And it was utter devastation. And I remember just imagining, you know, wishing that I could die, and just imagining if I died, which I wanted to because I felt so horrible. I mean, beyond comprehension horrible. I was just kind of imagining in India with the numbers of people, and of course in this festival with all the extra people coming there, that the population, you know, the death rate in India is huge. You know, the birth rate is huge. They have a huge population, over 1 billion people. But anyway, I was just kind of factoring in my mind, just because I had nothing else to do but feel terrible. I was thinking about the numbers of people that would die each day in Hardware. I think it came up with something like 144 bodies. And the common people, they just pile the bodies. They don't get the Ghats on the river. They just pile the bodies somewhere in some crematorium kind of place, but not a building, just like a ditch, and pour some accelerant, probably gasoline, diesel, all over the bodies, and burn them each day.